sorry. I'm not.
Are you streaming?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, there's mine. It took a while last time. That's what it is. No, I'm saying it took a while. Like you set a time for the live. We're taking a couple minutes and then saying, oh, I see you walking in your room now. Yeah, that delay was like 30 seconds to a minute and a half. This picks up. The moment of truth, though. I mean, it worked 100 times yesterday. So I would just pick the top one where it says live. Oh, you see it there. It's going to take a minute. Remember, man. Yeah. When I click on it to send him this link, it goes to the thing. How do I just send it? Oh, no.
This is the response.
This is yours or this is theirs? This is mine. Okay. Can we share? Yeah, I'm actually going to take this off. Let's slide off. So we'll just start off with a few things here and then we'll call you out. Let's start off with a few things here. Just come I'll introduce you. It's not picky. Just start from the beginning.
Good. Do you want me to test this one? Like tap it? Oh, you'll switch it.
going to go and get started. I'd like to welcome you to the first annual Kisumu Neurosurgery time out of your busy schedules to attend this symposium. I'd like to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dr. Victor Aurora. I'm the course chairman. There's some housekeeping things. There's some coffee and tea outside the door here, out to the door, and then down to the right. We're going to have a cash bar at the back, and then dinner will be served at around 7 o'clock. So hold on to those dinner vouchers. Keep those handy. That is what you'll use when you go to get your dinner. So I'm a neurosurgeon in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm really glad that you all are here to attend. I'd like to thank Medtronic Spine for their contribution to making this possible. Without their support, this event would not be possible. I'd also like to thank the Kisumu Neuroscience Initiative, the founders. I see some of the team here. I'd like to thank Bethwell Railway. Please stand. This is Bethwell. A little over a year and a half ago, I would say, maybe 2 years ago, and we started sharing ideas of how we could start this initiative to advance neurosurgery in this region. And Bethwell, myself, and Tim, go ahead and stand. Tim is a neurosurgeon in Germany, and he's also from this area. Bethwell is a neurosurgeon in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's also from this area. So really, it's with these guys now. Gilbert's not, is he here? Gilbert's not here and Calvin's not here, but they're the other two founders of the Kisumu Neuroscience Initiative. They haven't made it in yet, but hopefully they'll be here sometime later on today or tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support. Now, this event also would not be possible without the support of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. They are our host. Is here as well, and we'll be talking to you shortly, but I'd really like to thank them for hosting us and for being part of this vision to improve neurosurgical access in this region. Without them, this would not be possible. I'd like to thank Maxtown Medical, the Pew Safeties, and the Pew Safeties rep here, Vic Sharma. Roger is here from Medtronic. I appreciate you guys coming. It means so much to me to have your support. Thank you so much for coming and for the work you've done before we got here. Without you guys, this stuff would not be possible. Thank you so much. There's other companies that do not sound like that, but are very instrumental in what we've done so far this week as far as the neurosurgical care we provide and have provided this week would not be possible without companies like AmeriCare. AmeriCare is a non-profit that has contributed significantly to making this possible with donations of various things. This also would not be possible without the support of the Kisumu County government. This is what this local support is what allows us to have sustainability and longevity in programs like this. So I'd like to really thank the Kisumu County government, the governor. I just heard will be here tomorrow, but Minister of Health will be here later on this evening. Correct? Yeah, so I do really appreciate their support as well. This would not be possible also without Ohio Health Grant Medical Center. That is the hospital that I work for. That is the hospital that Dr. Karras works for. And they have donated a significant amount of supplies to allow this week of surgery to happen. And they've always supported our efforts in these programs. So I'd really like to give a special thanks to Ohio Health Grant Medical Center. And actually, having we are a practice practice we're a busy level 1 trauma center with 3 neurosurgeons full-time, and we're actually allowed for 2 of us to be on vacation. Not, this is our vacation work, but we're actually allowed for 2 of us to be here at the same time, so I really appreciate that from Ohio Health. And then I'd like to thank the surgeons who've made this possible. Dr. Gallo is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. Without his support and guidance, these kinds of things also wouldn't be possible. Dr. Gallo, thank you so much for being here. And his lovely wife, Melody, who's here with us as well. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to thank Dr. LaBelle, who is skilled in surgery. So I'd like to thank him too for his support and for his willingness to come over. Dr. and they're not here right now. They're still stuck in the hospital, but we really appreciate them coming and their support. Dr. Karras, who's my partner in the United States and in Kenya, thank you so much for coming. For the people who are live streaming, they're the reasons why you're seeing us right now. So thank you so much. Without the faculty members. You can see a list of our faculty. I really appreciate their support and their presence. And to all the attendees, thank you for registering. I hope you'll get something from this, and we hope to continue to do this as an annual event. Thank you so much. Again, if you need anything, I'm around. Feel free to ask. The restrooms are all the way down the hall to the right. And again, there's some snacks and coffee and tea right out the door. Dinner will also be served right outside there. And there's going to be a cash bar at the back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll begin by introducing myself and then I will welcome you. My name is Dr. Peter Scott. I'm the CEO of Jaramogi Oginga Oginga. So I'm here to represent Jaramogi Oginga Oginga, but before the minister comes, I also represent now the Kisumu government. And I would like to welcome you here. A dentist and also a health economist. I think I'm the one who is very, very close to the neurosurgeons. I'm much better than Professor Jones, who is on the other side, is a cardiothoracic surgeon. I think we have to fight through the mouth before we can get out of the head. Before we it's been a long journey trying to have the significant effort that is put towards neurosurgery in this region. And probably Dr. Olena will leave us that this country has only around 20 neurosurgeons and very, very few neurologists. Again, it's a very huge burden. And that's why when the Kisumu Neuroscience Initiative came about, we were so delightful. And in the past, when I looked at the statistics in 2016, we had only around 250, but mostly when it came to neurosurgery, it was mainly the battle. Yeah, I don't know when I'm getting it right. And then subsequent years, when it was apparent that the Kisumu Neurosurgery Initiative came by, there was a phenomenal rising in terms of numbers. Then we realized that the burden of neurosciences in general in this region is very, very huge. And we have a very long and very, very large population. There are within by extension Kisumu County is a referral center for almost 10 counties. 10 counties have around 20 million people. And therefore, to get the nearest surgical, public surgical, therefore we have to, private, we have to travel either 50 kilometers towards Eldoret, that is over across the eastland. Maybe it's not very good with the ocean. But then the largest center that we have is what is in Nairobi. And then again with the numbers, those are talking about 20 that are largely concentrated in Nairobi. You can imagine what it's like to have
perform the data technology in a way that we have a comprehensive view of the investigation on the ground. And therefore, how we succeed the center of excellence is that we need to have a good research leaders, we need to market the training, and we have also now the integrated data. And that's why it's very important to us that we are gathered here resuming and that will help us take the views. Probably we have anything in my other points we are also the economic evaluation in health in the secondary period. We believe that under our good successes we can get similar outcomes that will help to advance the population and health. I don't want to dwell a lot, but let me thank I also want to thank him because it's not easy to put this together. Whether it's Raore, Steve, and the group that probably one way or the other you''ve not met. It's easy to do all this. We appreciate that that in terms of the study that we're actually questioning ourselves better. Those who are conducting the surgery also realize that there are a lot of things to be done in terms of how to reorganize our system. We believe that
Thank you, Dr. McCough. And I just saw Dr. Gilbert Miller walk in. Critical care physician in Mississippi, correct? Mississippi. Right, so welcome. Thank you. And he's one of our faculty members as well, and will be speaking tomorrow. Thank you. So, I just want to get while we're waiting for Dr. Alunya, I just want to get a feel of where everybody is from. Do we have any physicians or any attendees from Uganda? If we do, let's Western Africa here today. Because I know some people registered from Western Africa. Probably they're not going to be here until tomorrow. Anybody from Ethiopia? Okay, because we did have some people register from there as well. I see a lot of people from the United States, from the U.S. Show of hands. It looks like we're the majority. From Germany. Anywhere else that I missed? Let's see, Nairobi. People from Nairobi. There we have some people from Nairobi. Okay, great. Did I miss anyone? Anywhere else? Over there. The hometown. That's good. So we have some people from Kisumu. And with that said, Do you want to use my laptop? Does it jump right?
Speaker is going to be Dr. David Lunya. Dr. Lunya is a neurosurgeon in Nairobi, and he will be telling us about the history of neurosurgery in Kenya. Thank you.
You heard David Oluochuling is another arm from Kenya who is in the background. I'm one of them, so because I was also putting my nose in it, he gave me the opportunity to become the patron. So when you're a patron, you're supposed to be long in the tooth and not being able to do anything, but I hope I can do something. He gave me, we decided to have a small talk about the history of neurosurgery in Kenya. I've got many hats. Is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching Referral Hospital. AKUHN is Aga Khan University Hospital, Nairobi, Aga Khan Hospital, Kisumu, Neurological Society of Kenya, and the COSEXA is the College of Surgeons, East, Central, and Southern Africa. And we've got the Continental Association of Neurological Societies starting, going to be in August next year, and I'm the Secretary General. I thought I'd have those 4 bullet points. Oh, it died. You're seeing them in the other ones, but not this one.
Cable is a little bit sketchy, I guess.
Because you're seeing them on the other ones. But
There you go. At least that one works.
okay. Those are the bullet points that we'll look at. A bit of history. The COSEXA training program is in the region. Trephination. Trephination was actually done from time immemorial, and looking through the records, we were actually doing trephination at least 10,000 years ago in this region. And there's one group of people not far from here who have been doing trephination quite a lot up to recently, and it's in Kisii. We'll have a look at what they do. And the rest from 1901 to 1981 looks at Kenyatta National Hospital. It was known as the Native Civil Hospital, started off between the world wars, named King George VI in 22 and Kenyatta National Hospital in 63. So a lot of the neurosurgical you talk about or the plastic surgeon or the neurosurgeon.
Modern surgical requirements are 1 sterile nurse, 1 instrument nurse, 2 circulating nurses, not sterile, 1 anesthesiologist, the chief surgeon, his personal assistant, a resident neurosurgeon, the interning physician attached to his staff. Operating facilities, below minimal requirements. Surgical labs, sufficient power to operate. 1 tank medical arsenal. Blood of the proper type and factor, 500 units. Opening time, approximately 3 hours, depending, of course, on lack of complication. Surgery varies. Closing time, 2 hours or more. After 3.5 hours, the patient is tired. She is given something to drink, some water. The witch doctor and his assistants take time out to wet their mouths with beer. They are as casual as their patient, all evidently sharing the same complete confidence in the skill of the witch doctor. The surgical team enjoys the beer. The patient is given some gruel called uji. Immediately, the patient resumes her position for the continuation of surgery. skull surgery. Trepanation in the outback. No oxygen, no surgical lights, no scrub nurses, no anesthesiologists, no neurosurgeon, not even sanitary sterile conditions. And yet, the chances of survival? 96%. Better than in a London hospital. So say the old Africans. Europe, America, New Africa. They all know much, but understand little.
And in that trephination, if you get CSF, you've not gone too far. So they know to get out the outer table only. And this was used for non.
Strips of banana leaves are used to bind the wound shut. No stitches here.
You're talking about tissue.
The patient walks away, and it is a time for the doctor. Time for him to show the results of his skill. Other trepanations, others with permanent holes in their skulls. Holes covered so thinly by scalp that each person must wear a head garment to protect his brain from the sun. There are such examples of the doctor's skill. One person has had 13 such operations. A hero of his people. It is an honor for a people to have a great and successful witch doctor among them.
Cosmas, that's the outpatient clinic. And Cosmas hails from Kisii, so he knows this story. And I bet you have seen people who have got these things, and they still do them, correct? So that practice was done, goes back over 10,000 years. So from our standpoint, we've talked about trephination. Recorded neurological surgery was actually done in 1949 by J.F. Jarvis. J.F. Jarvis was an ENT surgeon, and he came across between 1949 and 1951, and he carried out operations for children with hydrocephalus. And as an ENT surgeon, he also did. Peter Clifford took over from him. Peter Clifford was working under Pennybacker. Pennybacker has got a lot of instruments that are been named after him. And this was all happening at the King George VI Hospital. The first resident full-time neurosurgeon really started in 1966. Renato Francesco Ruberti came across from Padua, Italy, for a hunting safari in 1966. Hunting not with a camera, but with a gun. He fell in love with the place, and he sold out. The house that he bought was in Muthaiga. Angiograms, tables to do x-rays, and he was a one-man fitting all. Two neurosurgeons joined him from Italy also from Padua, Poppi and Camignani, and they came for a year in between, and then they left. Our first indigenous Kenyan neurosurgeon who was trained was Nabwangu. Nabwangu came through from Canada. After having had his training in McGill, he got home to Kenya and he thought, these conditions were not very good, and he went back. There's Professor Renato Francesco Ruberti, God rest his soul. He passed on in 2006. And next to him is Professor Adeloye, who is from Nigeria. And the two of them started the Pan-African Association of Neurological Societies, which really a burgeoning support for neurosurgery within the continent. In 1972, Professor Ruberti started off the Nairobi Neurological Clinic and started doing EEGs. And really, he used to run between Nairobi Hospital, where he did his private practice. He worked across at Kenyatta National Hospital. He'd also go through the Aga Khan, which is a not-for-profit thing, hospital, to also was based across at, it was called Ward 13. 13 is supposed to be an unlucky number, but it was called Ward 13. Our indigenous Kenyan neurosurgeon who took over was Gershom Sande. He went across to Belfast, and at that time there was the trouble, so there's a lot of trauma going on in Belfast, wars, and then he also rotated in Glasgow. And of course, Glasgow, you know, is the home of the Glasgow Coma Scale. He worked with Sir Professor Graham Michael Teasdale. I also had the privilege of rotating in Glasgow, and he was at the time in Glasgow soon after the Glasgow Coma Scale was thought of. And what was interesting, Professor Stanley tells me, the Glasgow Coma Score was actually written on the back of a cigarette packet. And as you know, in the west of Scotland it rains and it's very cold, so they take a lot of whiskey. And they really decided that suave. So you have a bit of a drink, eye-opening to speech, eye-opening to pain, then no eye-opening, and then coordination appropriately. Dr. Maingi also came across, and he went for training out also in Canada, but unfortunately when he came back, soon after his training, after 18 months, he was involved in a fatal car crash near Bellevue, just inside as you get into Nairobi, and he didn't survive. The next neurosurgeon who followed us is Nimrod J. Eunice Mwangombe, who after doing his M.Med training in Nairobi, won a scholarship to do a PhD in Queen Square. And he worked under Professor David Thomas, and he did a thesis on gliomas. And up to now, he's one of our champions for glioma surgery. The first formal trained neurological surgeon was Mahmoud Bashir Qureshi, tertiary qualification for neurological surgery. He came back in 1992. After that, there was a few of us who were together around the same time: Patrick Akugo Okoth, C.K. Musau, Ruben Paul Lubanga. C.K. Musau, Akugo Okoth, and myself were in Scotland and Liverpool in England around the same time. Lubanga went to Israel, and I had the privilege of attaining the intercollegiate exam for neurological surgery in 1998, and came home in 1999. From the year 2000, there was now a new injection of trainees. Peter Wanyoike, who should be here, Gishuru Mwangi, Julius Kiboi, Florentius Koech. Now, Peter Wanyoike and Gishuru Mwangi, after having had a period of training elsewhere, Mwangi went to India at the All Institute of in Delhi, and Peter Wanyoike had a stint in St. Louis, Missouri. They opted to do the COSEXA examination, so they'd have a tertiary examination. So they went to Australia. Some of the facilities we've got, if you bear in mind, we didn't have formal neurological training here. And in 2006, because of that influx of people, we thought we should be able to do that training there. And neurosurgery was really being done by general surgeons. And part of the training would include that. So, and the last point shows that usually people go for 1 or 2 years, and then after that, they'd come back and then start practice. But then the advent of having formal training was getting into possession. So, in 2004, own system of training. There is Patrick Akuko Okoth. That's Ben Wolf. At that time, he was in Cure, Uganda, because you're looking at this when he was doing all the seminal work for the endoscopic third verticulostomies. I don't know who that chap is. He had less hair on his face. This fellow here was the president of the College of Surgeons East Central North Africa. Professor Kahomba, Ugandan, across there. And this gentleman was managing, Kijabe. That's Peter Wanyoike. And there's Ruben Paul Lubanga. That's Gershom Sande, retired now in Migori. And that's the late Professor Renato Francesco Roberti. And that's Mr. Koreshi. He was not able to join us. And this was part of the groups that looked at how to get it done. And in the region, East, Central, and South. That's the group. At the center is Professor Mwangombe. He was chair of the committee. According to that, Mr. Qureshi, Ruben Paul Lubanga, Ben Wolf, Florentius Koech. No, that's Kahamba, Florentius Koech, C.K. Musao. I still wore ties those days. That's Professor Young, Gishuru Mwangi, Julius Kiboi, and Peter Wanyoike. Some of the regional centers, we talked about the centers where neurosurgery is being trained. Mulago Hospital Complex in Uganda. At that time, there was a professor who was there. His name is, I'm having a senior moment, he's gone for a walk. I'll tell you his name just now. His son took over from him in Sibirwa. Kenyatta National Hospital, the former King George VI, that's the medical school. And then within the region, we looked at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Black Lion, and all those places there. And then, of course, the Khan University Hospital in Nairobi. These centers have their areas of specialty. At the moment, Khan is able to do endovascular treatment for aneurysms. We have neuronavigation. We are in terms of coiling aneurysms, AVMs, and there is a PET scanner there. So in terms of diagnostics, it's gone quite far. His Highness the Aga Khan is quite keen to push things through, and is also going to give effort for Aga Khan Kisumu to get some of these things. So the training curriculum really is a regional one. Mervyn Began from FINS, Federation of International Education for Neurological Societies, promoted both in Ethiopia, and we end up having that training program. And that's the thing that was put through, FCSX Neuro, and I am plugging the Neurosurgical Fellowship Collegiate one, although I did work at the University of Nairobi for the MED program, but because we hope to get Kisumu as a center for COSEXA training, I am championing that. Those are some of the people involved. That's Jose Piquet from neurological NED in Valencia. His assistant, God rest his soul, he passed on after a car crash, and that's Paul Young, who runs the thing in St. Louis, Missouri, the lab that is there. Now, in terms of collaboration, if you look at what can be done by volunteers, what can be done by raising funds, at the time that we found funds to be able to put a place, there was nowhere where there was people are quiet enough to be able to allow us to do so. So the funds were put together, and it's in Zanzibar. So that institute is in Zanzibar. When the first of the operations will be done in Zanzibar, Mr. Qureshi went with a shunt introducer, but now there's a fully fledged institute. Khalif Abdi Fattah had just come from there last week, where they had a period of training. They've got neuronavigation, portable ones. They do neuroendoscopy. There's a brain lab. So that institute exists, and you look over the Indian Ocean, and it works. No fuss. So what can be done with collaborations? So I'll just run through some of the people who have benefited around the region. So Mike Hagland from Duke University helps people in Uganda. So Mulago, so he's actually taking care of Mulago. So the training programs, like I've said, COSEXA, the MED program for University of Nairobi. We have some collaborations with the Chinese, where they've given us China 100 program, so people can have a full training in China. And of course, some people have gone to South Africa to have the MED program and the FCS program as well. Will from Cornell, Tanzania, the neurosurgery projects also. We sometimes go and lecture there, so we have training program there also. Now, I'll give you some of the mugshots of the people who have benefited from the training program. Ben Okanga, in English we say no Yauholo, but he's gone down to Mombasa to work. He's doing neurosurgery there. It was a series of training and so on and so forth, but he was able to benefit from the training program from the World Federation of Neurological Societies. He's had a microscope, equipment, and now he's operating. He's actually doing endoscopic endonasal surgery for pituitary tumors. He's one of the people we trained. Mugendi, he's in Embu. He's not only a neurological surgeon, he's also the med soup. So, and Embu is an independent, so they're able to attract funding. And I know for sure, as a neurosurgeon, and the fact that he benefited from the collegiate training, he's going to push things further. Blessings is in Mbarara, Uganda. He's working together with David Kitia, one of the first COSEXA trainees. So there are two of them there. Kitia is the head of the department, and that's Mbarara Teaching Hospital, where Kitia and Hindu are working. And then Peter Gishuru Mwangi, like I said, he got his COSEXA fellowship. He's a head of the clinical services. David Kitia, I said, is head of the teaching in Mbarara. The courses at the institute in Zanzibar, those are the kind of courses that you have. Fully fledged. World Federation, Karl Storz, the Orthopedic Association, it's all there. They've got imaging intensifiers. That can be done because of collaboration. I'm saying this loudly because this is what we need to have in Kisumu. There's water outside and you can do that. So some of the impact. That's Bore. He went and worked in Japan with Shizuo Oi. Peter Wanyoike, who now runs his brain and spine rehabilitation system. Andrew Nyaoncha, who did his last training in Bristol. The last COSEX examination, he was the top student. That's Ben. And there's Kitia, Gishuru Mwangi. And that is Mayaya, who also from Tanzania. That's Mugendi we've seen. And we've seen those guys already before. So, that's Nyaoncha in Consolata Mission Hospital in Nyeri. Mayaya in Bugando, Tanzania. Bugando, Tanzania, by the way, it's right on the Lake Victoria. So we have similar culture. Right now, when the hyacinth disappears here, it goes across to Bugando. So we're quiet here, so they're suffering there. The other program, the MMed program, they started off the same way, but we split off, and all of this training is actually done at the University of Nairobi. And at the moment, the bulk of them are both in Eldoret and Nairobi. The only person who is out of that place is one who we are enticing to work in Kisumu, who is Dr. Leo Gutha. We are still trying to get the county to give him a job for sure, and we hope he'll give him up. So he's here. He's the one we are trying to entice to. That 5,000 clap for him, because he's still standing after doing a CP angle tumor. And these are he's eventually, God willing, going to go down to Mombasa to help Ben Okanga. The FNS Foundation gave a boost to the program because they saw that it is collegiate. We're not staying in an ivory tower in a place. We work around wherever it is, gain the experience. It is an apprenticeship, but with collaborations like this, Kisumu Neuroscience Initiative, it's perfect because we have the case mix, we have the volume, we have the enthusiasm, and we've also got the support not only from the hospital itself, support from the county government, and this should be able to work. Now, behind this, there's a grandfather for Professor Majid Sami, who's across from Hanover. He felt that this is one of those things that should work. So, as well as that, there are centers across in North Africa, in Morocco, Rabat, and in Egypt who are assisting us in doing this training. So those who are bilingual can also do so. And we started this by a major breakthrough when we sat together to try and get the continent of Africa working together as one association, the regional bodies to work together, because neurosurgeons are all type A's, I'm told. They all want their own bit, but we were able, therefore, it was the beginning of the Continental Association of Neurological Societies. These are the current trainees. Andrew Nyaoncha has actually graduated. Abdi Fatah, who we just seen now, Peter Waweru, who is currently, he's just gone to for a stint. Where has he gone to? He's gone to Spain for a period of time in place for having dissections there. So in conclusion, international collaboration is vital. What you're doing for us here, skill set, it is equipment, it is raising the bar. We had the privilege of training elsewhere, but we have brought it back home. And the fact that you are able to spend time and come across and assist us in getting that next level is perfect. The impact, it is going direct to the patients, directly. Not necessarily between elective and trauma cases for the beginning of the year. And in terms of development, that is one thing which I think will push us forward. Those bullet points, this is what we hope for. Neuroscience Initiative is here. The COSEX training program, we have got a time limit. We want Jaramogi Oginga Odinga to be able to be inspected by 2020 so that we'll be able to train neurological surgeons here. Partner with Maseno University. The dean, my professor, my senior, I have to say this. When I was in primary school, he was in the same primary school. He was about to finish, but I was still smaller. Although I've got more silver things on my face, he can still tell me to keep quiet, and I'll keep quiet. So, Prof, don't tell me to keep quiet. No, Professor Stephen Ogendo. Collaboration, FINS, WFNS, NED, twinning with institutions. I say Germany. We've got our brother from all the way from Germany here, Ogutu. Ogutu donated a microscope for us. So we've got a microscope ready for this. Twinning institution. The Neuroscience Institute, What Dr. Dr. Peter Okoth didn't tell you is that we've actually got a location where we can have our own institute at Jaramogi. We not only have that, we also have some soft money to start things off. So we are not sitting. And then, of course, you cannot have all of this stuff without research. And with the research, you will be able to benchmark. So Kisumu is on the run. We put a bid for the Continental Association of Neurological Societies meeting. We have it. It's going to be in Nairobi in August next year. Now, we have got collaborations for South Africa, the whole Continental Association, from Asia, from Britain, from the US. Both CNS and ANS are interested. But at that point in time, we should be able to get Kisumu in a level whereby CANS will know that we are making a mark. The next Zoom meeting, we shall let them know the kind of cases that we've done, and we'll move forward. In English, spoken in UK, we say, Ero urukamano. Merci bien beaucoup. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olunya. So the Minister of Health is here. I'll have Dr. Okoth introduce him to us, and then he'll say a word or two, and then...
So Waziri, as we promised that Waziri will be here. Waziri is a name for a minister. It's a Swahili name for a minister. So he's here. He will give us his remarks, and then we proceed. Waziri.
The neurosurgeon medics, the visitors Kisumu, the fourth estate, and everybody, good evening. Good evening. My name is Neri Achar. I'm the acting county minister for health and sanitation, but I am the county minister for finance and economic planning. First, I would like to apologize for coming in late. I was at Jaramogi Hospital with Dr. Okoth. He left me behind. We were trying to solve some issues there. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to the great county of Kisumu. And I must say that we feel greatly honored and privileged to have such a high concentration of top-notch neurosurgeons in our city. And these, you have managed to put Kisumu the governor, our governor, Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, was supposed to be here this evening to open this symposium. He's been talking about it ever since the idea came up that you're coming to Kisumu, and he was looking very much forward to meeting you. Even on Sunday when you arrived, he felt very bad that he could not be here to receive you. But all the same, Dr. Okoth did a good job on his behalf. And also due to unavoidable circumstances, because we launched a universal health coverage program. And Kisumu is one of the pilot counties. So the governor had a meeting yesterday regarding the same in Nairobi. The meeting didn't conclude, so they were asked to stay again today, and that's why he's not here with you. However, he is going to be here tomorrow and is going to join you in this symposium. I would like to just make one or 2 points that Kisumu is striving to strengthen its healthcare delivery system. And also, this is the first time we are having such a historic event in Kisumu. And also, the doctor was just did a presentation, talked about the the neurosurgeon or neurocenter in Jaramogi, I would like to state that the governor has allocated Kenya shillings 60 million. That's about maybe 600,000 US dollars in the next financial year to start constructing or improving the neurosurgery center. So with those few remarks, on behalf of the governor of the great county of Kisumu, I would like to officially open, I know it was opened, but just as a formality to officially open the symposium and wish you a nice stay in Kisumu. I know you've been working the few days doing a great job at Jaramogi. I know you've done slightly, you're shy of 30 surgeries you've done successfully, and we believe that you're going to meet your target by the end of this exercise, which Dr. Koth informed me is about 80. So I believe that is going to happen. Otherwise, you feel very much welcome. Kisumu is a virgin tourism destination, so take this opportunity also when you have a break, which we can organize with Dr. Koth to facilitate that, so you can enjoy the beauty of Kisumu. And when you go back, then you can have something positive or something nice to share with the people back home. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much to the Minister of Health for being here. I assure you I've been taking them around. I've shown them the tilapia, and we've been working on the ugali and scooping up the sukuma wiki and the fish. We've been working on it. I assure you I'm teaching them how to eat some Kenyan food. So far, so good. So the next thing we're going to have is a panel. I'm going to ask Dr. Olunya, Dr. Okoth, Khalif, and let's see, Dr. Copeland, Dr. Will Copeland. Could you all please come up, please? So this panel discussion is going to talk about, we're going to discuss neurosurgery in Kenya, present and future. This is a chance for you as the audience also to participate and ask questions. I'm going to start off by asking a few questions, and then please feel free to raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll pass a mic around so that you can participate. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Right, and each one of them themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do. Use the mic. Just pick that mic up, please.
As you might have seen, my name is David Olunya. I am a neurological surgeon. I had the privilege of being trained at the University of Nairobi, and I did my one year. One of the things that brought me back was impact factor. The fact that we could be one amongst many, but I'd also had the privilege of speaking one day when I was referred a patient from Southampton. It was him who was there. He's more senior to me, but we started talking, and the fact that we were both coming back, the issue of trying to get neurological surgical training in Kenya. I'm currently based in Nairobi at the Nairobi Hospital. I also consult at the Ahani University Hospital. I am a resident more often now in Kisumu. Neurological surgeon. I've got an interest in skull base, especially in the pituitary region, also endoscopy. I have the dubious honor of doing one of the first endoscopic
stated that I'm the teaching and referral hospital.
Speak up a little bit so we can hear you all the way in the back. Let me make sure this mic is on. Briefly describe to us one of the things we sometimes have a hard time. I think you're probably the best resource to describe to the audience. What is neurosurgery training in Kenya? How long do you train? What's kind of involved in the curriculum? What facilities do you train at typically? So can you just give us a quick overview of what neurosurgical training in Kenya is like? And I see Dr. Olunya mentioned there's two.
Okay. Programs based neurosurgical training, which is MMed. Neurosurgical resident, stay there for 6 years, do an exam, and then exit as a neurosurgeon. That's one of the ways, and that's not the one I'm not in. So I'm in a program called COSEXA. It's a program that is also training neurosurgeons in this region, but not only in Kenya. It's training in Tanzania, Uganda, and in 19 other African countries. So it's a bigger program. So what it entails is we have 2 years of general surgery training. It's called MCS. You have to do an MCS exam. You become a member of the College of Surgeons, and then you can apply for neurosurgery fellowship, which is 4 years. So in this training, the main principle is that you learn from different people and from different centers. So let's trauma patients, maybe in Eldoret, Mombasa, Kisumu, or Kenyatta. So that's the main principle. If you need to do something about endovascular, you need to go to a place where they do coiling, clipping, you know. So that's the main principle. It's learning from the best in every institution. So there is no way you can have as an institution which can provide all this neurosurgical specialty in one place. It's difficult to get that in this region. Therefore, the main principle is to learn from different people and different centers. So that's the main principle, and we're very grateful to the people who started this program, Mr. Olunya, Mr. Qureshi, who were the pioneers of that, and the people who've already finished the program, Dr. Ben Okanga, who was my former boss at Coast General Hospital, and many others who are already neurosurgeons in the region and who are from the COSEX. Have one surgical exit exam for the whole country, and he was thinking at that time that maybe that the COSEXA exam will be a standard exam for the region. So that's that. We're very grateful. We've got a lot of resources in the online, on the website of COSEXA, and what we do is that we've got a lot of contacts with other institutions. Mr. Qureshi just the other day got us a rotation in Spain, 3 months rotation in a brain lab, which is one of the best in Spain, that is run by Professor Pablo Gonzalez and Jose Pique. We have a rotation in Italy.
Because I noticed that you're still addressing some of the neurosurgeons as Mr.
I think I'll answer that. It's actually it's a, and in the United Kingdom, surgeons were not doctors. They were. The Queen gave a royal charter to allow them to do medicine. After that, as a distinction, when you become a surgeon, you drop the doctor bit and you become a Mr. or a Ms. So that's a past from Australasia, they use that as a Mr. or Miss, but that's the reason. It's just that. Once you become a surgeon, you drop the doctor bit and become a surgeon. Because I'm a fellow, I use that as a title. There was this myth that Mr. is more than a doctor. If you become a doctor, you become Mr. No, it's just that you are part of the Guild of Surgeons. That's it. So those who use Mr. tend to be ones who have been trained in the British system or the UK system. That's all.
So you would not be offended if I called you doctor?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions from the audience? Okay.
I'll take one, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Chris Karras. I'm Dr. Orr's partner in the United States. And I was just wondering, what's your greatest challenge to educating neurosurgical residents in Kenya? What makes it most difficult for you to educate the residents in Kenya? Is it volume? Is it resources? Is it the need to travel?
You do.
I'm not. I don't know why you gave this to me. I'm not yet training neurosurgeons. I'll pass on to Dr. Olunya.
Notice said Dr. Olunya. Yeah. The difficulties in getting them trained, it's competitive to get in one. On the COSEXA program, we keep it small because the apprenticeship is very close-knit. We tend to have 3 per year, and we watch them like hawks. And the apprenticeship is such that you cannot let someone do any much more until you are sure they can. You can imagine the same way you train a pilot. When you're on the left, you are the main, and you got the first officer. And the first officer should be able to handle the plane until he cannot, and then the man on the left does so. And that's what we do with them. I benefited from that training, and both Mr. Qureshi and I did the same. And we thought it was invaluable. And the thing was that you do not stick with one person, and you do not stick in one center. So to come back to your question, the challenges are, case mix is plenty. Cases are too many. In terms of getting the equipment to be able to cope with the load, sometimes can be a challenge. The distances to travel in terms of where to get the places. Now, Khalif is here in Kisumu. Last week he was in Zanzibar. Most of the time he was in Nairobi. And there are 2 of them who are rotating. Since he's a senior one, as a senior resident, it's on your lap. So he's getting ready to sit on the left. So therefore he has to take the load. And sometimes I look at him and he can almost fall over, and it happened to me when you've had a whole weekend on call, and that's when your boss tells you, we are now softer, we are not as harsh as we used to be, they used to be to us. So I sometimes, can you imagine, I buy him a cup of tea or let him sit and rest. And if I see he's shaking too much, we have taught him how to make sure his hands are held so he doesn't make a problem. So case mix is the caseload is a lot. The other thing that we have a challenge with is, like now in Kisumu, when you're trying to build up the facilities, in order that you cope, there are certain things that are disposable, you don't have. There are certain things that, pieces of equipment, which it's nice to, you should have, but you cannot. So you adapt. Now, one of the problems that we have is we make do. But when we make do, we innovate. They say when challenges comes opportunity. But what we don't do is we don't publish these things. So the thing that we're trying to do is to encourage them, as a younger people, is when these innovations come up, let them write them down, so that it does not have to come from your state in Columbus, Ohio. Why the procedure we're doing it here is, since you have that time, you're able to write it. So as well as doing the service commitment, they also have to get in this to be able to write. So challenges for them, they have to have the aptitude. They have to have the stamina. They have to have the hand-eye coordination. And it's 6 years. And at the end of it, with this program, we give them the ticket so that they can sit on the left. And usually when they go, they're going to a place where they'll be alone and or having one or other person do so. But so far, the training system in terms of getting them on board, in terms of how to select them, is quite rigorous. And because we have a very close eye on them, we tend to find out very soon those who cannot. I hope that answers the question.
So, you said there's 3 residents per year in the COSEXA program?
That is correct.
And how about in the other program?
It varies, depending on how the interviews come in. Sometimes they have about 6.
Per year?
Yeah. There was 1 year they had 8, but
Okay.
usually about 6. 4 or 6.
The reason why I asked that is the number of neurosurgeons in Kenya over the past. Is it just that those numbers are new numbers as far as more younger residents, or because we should be graduating around? So it has gone up.
So we have broken the barrier. Getting in is so difficult. There's so few. We actually push them quite hard. The other program, once or twice, some people have not managed to complete or have fallen by the wayside. So that there's some fallout, but that can't explain all of it. But yes, we are in the 30s now. We are.
Great. Any other questions from the audience?
I'm Dr. Senyonjo from Uganda. I know Dr. Lunya, we've talked a lot on phone. I know you didn't know me by face, but I know quite a number of times I've talked to you on the phone, especially discussing difficult patients. So I'm a neurosurgeon from Uganda, and it's a privilege to be in Kenya. This is home. I know Dr. Lunya, you were in Makere for a while, so we count you as one of our own, and we are proud of the good work that you're doing. So that said, I know fellowship training is something that is new. Acceptability, especially by the regulator, has been
repeating what the question is before you answer it, please.
The question really is about how the COSEXA the fellowship training program has to become accepted as a way of training surgeons. We were lucky in Kenya in the sense that some of the drivers were quite rabid, that we really knew of it. The chairman or the president of the College of Surgeons East, Central and Southern Africa at the time that we were doing it was a neurosurgeon, Professor Gershom Sunday. Some of the routes that we stepped on to get to where we were, he had done the same. So he understood what we stood for. He had interviewed both Mahmoud Qureshi and myself, and as a senior person, when he had taken over in terms of getting his MMed and spending time in Glasgow and also spending time in Belfast, he understood the problem. So when these sites were being inspected, both in the Nairobi, Khan, going to Addis Ababa, going to Mulago, it was him who was heading it. So that was part of the battle. And if you have a champion and someone who understands the process, it makes done. Done is if you are or it's in the place where you are, they will not examine. You are actually excused from it. So I'm quite happy and quite proud to be part of that team and to see that the people who have gone through the same system have their position. Our students actually rotate. I told Anthony Yaucha, who was in Bristol. He was in Bristol for 3 years. He was there within a year or two, within a month or two, they saw what he could do. So that's what he did. That's why when he came back, he was top student. So from our standpoint, that was what made it easier for us. So what you need to do, if you have a problem with Uganda for that, is get like-minded people who will also use the word advisedly, brave it, to be able to push things.
Thank you. May I finish it off, please? Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. I know that we had a bit of, but I think it's over in the country. Of course, they did. The last time it was in Rwanda, they were quite impressed. Our medical and dental practitioners team were in Kigali and were impressed about the standardization of exams, how things were running. They were used, of course, to the university type of exams, so this was something new. But after that, it was just like this. Everything fell in place. So I'm also a fellow of COSEXA. Though I understand there's a colleague from Germany. I was in Bluebird for 4 years. So I will also chat with my colleague who comes from there. I also had to speak a bit of German, so I believe that you've also been there. I'll also take this opportunity to invite the members to Kampala. I know COSEXA will be in Kampala in December. So we hope that our Kenyan colleagues will also come in. I know abstracts, we are calling for abstracts and attendance and all that. So we shall be through the organizers of this or through you, sir, get the websites to you for those who want to attend COSEXA in Kampala. Please, you're very welcome, and we shall be glad to learn from us, to learn from you, and then we see how we can push neurosurgery forward in this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Real quick for Dr. Okoth. What is your vision? Being that as the CEO of the hospital, what would you see your vision for neurosurgery and the neurosciences at Kisumu? What do you anticipate as some of the challenges that are going to be faced?
Noted that we anticipate also start the training in 2020 for COSEXA. But we also want to set up a center of excellence in the shortest time possible. And I'm of the opinion, one of the people of the opinion that my leadership should not last 5 years, and we give in to new people with new ideas. So I respect my vision within 5 years we should have always there because we have a lot of processes to improve research. We have to orientate our universities and our partners to ensure that these things are achieved within the shortest time. It means that we have to resource mobilize through collaboration, through institutional development, develop a proper network, and realize all this. 2 years it is a very short time, but I think so many things have happened. Through probably certain things happen like a conspiracy, and we have a Kisumu Neurosurgery, and so we are having a critical mass of people who have the same interest. So I think execution has was that.
Thank you. Dr. Coleman, you worked in Kenya before and left and came back. What drove you to come back?
Hospital in Bomet. The poverty and sickness, the degree of which I had not encountered before. And upon returning to the United States, was looking for jobs and whatnot. And it was hard to shake the reality of what I'd seen in Kenya. And I couldn't help but think as I was contemplating these jobs in the U.S. that at least it occurred to me that, if I turned down such and such a job, I knew that I'd be quickly filled with the next guy in line, but not many were ready to go to Kenya. And so that's ultimately why I decided to go, come back. Tenwick did not have neurosurgical care, but they had a huge need for it and were looking for neurosurgical coverage. And so that opportunity was exciting for me.
Great. Question, Dr. Gallagher?
So for Dr. Copeland.
Can we get him a mic, please? And then just if you can introduce yourself and before the question.
Hi, Rob Gallagher from New York. For Dr. Copeland, to sort of follow up on that introduction, there are 5 of us here visiting with varying all readily available. We're going home next week. You are home. So what are the challenges of building this program that you're tasked with from the ground up, and maybe you can tell us some of the things that you've done there that might be useful as they try to build neurosurgery here.
Lots of challenges. Certainly one of them was, just as you alluded to, showing up and things were much different than I was used to. So equipment was an initial issue for the first 6 months at Tenwick. I didn't have any electrical drills, so it was Hudson brace and Giggly saw, which many of you are used to, but I certainly didn't use that at all in my training. The operating microscope was an old dental scope that would attach to the bed. It was a fixed focal length. There was no observer scope, so as soon as I brought that in, everybody in the room would fall asleep because they couldn't see what I was doing. Perioperative care is a big issue. So at least in my center, we're in a pretty rural area. And so our perioperative care suffers. So you may do a fine operation and the patient dies in the post-operative period and you don't know why. That's frustrating. Finances, so both from the hospital standpoint but also the patients. Again, at least where we are, many patients can't afford the care in Eldoret or Nairobi, and I can't get to them quick enough. And so many patients suffer or die because of that. That sounds dramatic, but it's the reality. And then the hospital itself doesn't have the financial means to support at least the development and all it requires of a neurosurgical program. So a lot of the development of the work at Tenwick has come through donations. But I would say that we've got electric drills now and a nice operating microscope and hangers and clips and spine implants, and I mean really anything you need other than we're not doing functional or any of that stuff. But no, it's been a challenge and continues to be, but it's certainly doable.
And we'll take 2 more questions, and then that will be it. There's a question over there, then we'll take one over here, and then we'll wrap up this session.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Samuel Chiroke, first year president, University of Nairobi. My question goes to Dr. Luka. So is it possible to have someone do MMed program and find a way of doing COSAXA? If yes, how would you advise someone to go about it?
Thank you, Samuel. COSAXA MMed. MMed program is a training program. At the end of the MMed program, you have to do 2 years before you get a specialist recognition. The COSAXA program is an exit exam. The moment you get the examination, you are recognized as a specialist. Can you get the MMed program, from the MMed program you get the COSAXA exam? The answer is yes. The 2 things that you have to do is very simple. You register, so you have a training number. Once you've registered, if you've done your MMed, you've got the equivalent of doing the MCS. So what you basically need to do is to get your logbook and make sure you've done the commensurate operations. It would be useful to get a stint where people who are COSAXA trained are, and we are very welcoming. So once you're registered, then you get you prepared for the examination because it's an exit exam. Part of it is how to not only do whatever it is you're going to do, but to think about it. So it's a very practical system, and once that is done, as I told you earlier, we are trying to get the COSAXA exam as part of the network whereby we give benchmark in the continent. So it will be an equivalent in as a continental examination for benchmark. So yes, you can do both. So register when you are ready and appear for the exam. So you can have MLED and processor as well.
Real quick, just to add on to that, it seems like the neurosurgery community in Kenya is really small based on kind of what we discussed. To create a more streamlined neurosurgical training, from what I understand, it seems like the COSEXA seems more like a regional thing. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Why not streamline the program so everybody gets the same training? Would that be an advantage or not? It seems to me like if everybody gets the same training, everything would be more, there would be no discrepancies across the board. Everybody would take the same kind of exam. Is that something that has been considered?
To answer your last question, has it been considered? Yes. The inception of the training program, it was a working party in 2004. We started off together. But in view of backgrounds of how to approach training, one was taken to be a med program in University of Nairobi, and the other one, as it's supposed to be, was the collegiate system. To come back to your question then, we have tried to harmonize the two. But in terms of the direction, we may be going in a certain direction, yes, in terms of training, but there are one or two things, the tracks are different. And as it stands, to be able to amalgamate or to harmonize those, there was a time I was wearing both hats. I tried to do the same, it couldn't work, and we've accepted it cannot at this point in time. But that being the case, it's not a problem because the case mix is the same. And I'll tell you, the two tracks of training systems have come together. And for the Continental Association of Neurological Societies meeting in August next year, we are as one. So, yes, it's logical for resources to be distributed in that particular way. But at the moment, the MA program is based at the University of Nairobi at the Kenyatta National Hospital with some rotations at Kigabe, and there is some collaboration with the Eldoret. And that's with the thesis, and that's how the training is being done. The collegiate system is more widespread. But in terms of the rotation process, once that is done, in terms of the assessment, it will be the same.
Thank you. Our final question.
Thank you. I'm called Alois again. I think I could be one of the few people who are at sea here. I am the head of communication unit at the county government, and it's really been a pleasure to have worked with this team from Sunday when you arrived to today. It's really been an eye-opening. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the initiative, the Kisumu Neurosurgery Initiative, for organizing this symposium and for bringing the camp to Kisumu, which has really been godsend to our people. One or two questions. My governor, Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, has been talking consistently about making Kisumu a center of medical excellence and having this region, having Kisumu as a hub of medical tourism. And I think this is one way of achieving that vision. And I think it's moving pretty fast. Now the question then is, this I think goes to, I don't know whether to call you Mr. Am I allowed to call you Mr.? Or it must be learned friends who call you Mr.? And I'm also surprised that people can walk from doctors to Misters. So, Mr. Olunyende, what is the long-term vision? This I think goes to the own of the Kisumu initiative, Neuroscience initiative. What's the long-term vision of increasing access to neurosurgery and increasing awareness of the existing neurosurgical disease burden that is in this area? I read somewhere, as we were doing some of these write-ups, that neurosurgical conditions account for about 33% of the cases that are seen at UTRH. So what is our vision in terms of increasing access and creating awareness? Two, I'm told you are now shy of 30 surgeries since you started the other day. And some of these people have been released to go home. What is your long-term plans with issues like post-surgical assistive devices? They're home. How are they being managed and how are they being worked? And three, I hear so much about the doctors, the neurosurgeons and stuff. I'm not hearing anything about the technical support team that work in that environment. What about the scrub techs in neurosurgery? What about the nurses in neurosurgery? What is our long-term plan even as we build the neuroscience and neurosurgery in Kisumu? Long-term plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gale. For the point of view of, you called me Mr. It's not a problem. If you look at my business card, it's actually called Mr. And people wonder what's wrong with me. And London friends are for liars. I'm not a lawyer. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer. So don't call me a London friend. I'll take the last question first, in terms of technical support. The way forward, there's a slide that we've done to have this discussion before with the CEO and the neuroscience team in terms of how to support the services that we do. You're quite right. You can have, as World Government said earlier on, that you can do a particularly technically complex operation, but then the post-op care or the follow-up care is an issue. In terms of the training, one of the reasons why we had 5 attendings come, the other people who are with them, and I'm not going to say all their names because I can't remember, but they are there to make these surgeons look good. And I'm not kidding. The fact that Dr. Patel can look and put his hand out and the scrub tech, who taught him, by the way, what to do, she gives him the exact instrument at the right time. It's because it's a team. It just so happens that the neurosurgeon is the head of it. That's all. So, in terms of the training, the amount of skill transference that has gone on, only from the neurosurgical side, the nurses who have all come through, the scrub techs who have come through, when they're rounding, the surgeons will go round. But the nurses will also be checking about the notes. Have these things been filled in? What are the post-op orders? Have they been sorted out? It is very difficult to run operations if you don't have an anesthesiologist. We say, those of you who listen, who remember the late Wayne Omisiano, Isabella Moron, now when they go to jail, the anesthetist is responsible for putting the patient to sleep and waking them up. And if you do not have an anesthetist who knows what they do, they're in trouble. Significant poverty. In terms of intensive care, the skill transference is built in. As far as the rehab side, I think that there's a slide for that, rehabilitation is part and parcel of what this training should be done. When you let them go out of the hospital, in the county hospital or wherever it is that they're going to, the kind of steps in terms of what they do, they're given some education, but they will be coming back. Cosmos is there in charge of the outpatient. He'll make sure that they come back in time for them to follow up. So that technical support is built in. We're just focusing on the neurosurgeon because in terms of the resource, that's the most expensive. And there's a win-win factor because if you can support the neurological surgeon, the other things that support the neurological surgeon will come along. Now, in terms of the second question, the surgeries that we've done, the long-term thing is, it's not tourism neurosurgery. When our colleagues have come across, they're not living a vacuum, in the sense that they have upped the game in terms of numbers, and support, and technical abilities, what they've done. When they have gone, there's a team here. Miguel is in. When he comes back on the 21st, when he comes back, he'll be able to do so. I am here intermittently. Leo Gutha is also on the ground. And do you know the residents in general surgery have learned so much. So in terms of the trauma that comes through, the post-op care, what to look for, the rounding is quite serious because they can come up with a scan, but no, we have to tell them how to think.
So in terms of the long term and so on, that is part of the continuum. And it's our prayer that each time there's a visit, the care will go up. Each time there's a visit, care will go up. So by the time 2020 comes through, when we are putting in this as a place for training, we'll be there. The first thing you'd asked about, in terms of what Professor Nyamnyo is concerned about, this place of excellence. He is passionate about it. I've had the privilege of seeing him when sorry, I have to floss. We were from the same school. He's an old boy. I was nowhere near when he was there, but I was in the same school, so I can feel okay. Professor Nyamnyo is very serious about health in this county. The passion that he has is incredible. He was, in another life, the Minister for Medical Services. So he knows the game. He knows it from the central government. So in terms of how to get things across, he knows the steps that should be done. So in terms of access then, when you have this universal healthcare, this is one of the pilots because he had the steps, the vision in terms of what to do. In terms of awareness, I am glad you spoke because we were doing this job for a whole year last year. And I'm putting it back to you because there are times you had interviews and it never came out. If somebody threw a stone in Kondele, it is out of the press. But when complex neurological operations are done, it is not said. I am glad you are working with us because people have to know. The second time when people are coming all the way from Embu, Meru for complex spine operations, Vic Award did those. Who had? Nobody did. So in terms of access, people have to know about it. But if we work in collaboration, it'll help. Awareness of the disease, but Dr. Kod, the CEO, strategy, research, figures. If we don't have the figures and say this is the disease burden, do what we're doing, it won't come out. But the fact that he's at the helm, we're able to correlate all this stuff and get people to know. So there are figures, we know that this is a disease burden, so many traumatic brain injuries, so on and so forth, and all this will come. So it is work in progress. We are lucky because we've got champions in each and every of those departments. So I can assure you, sorry Vic, I have to say this. Kisumu is the brain basket of the country. Fish, eat more fish. Fish makes brains. Brains makes money, and money buys more. But where are we? We are not here. We're in the US. We're in Nairobi. We're in Mombasa. These are sons of the soil. And if we go across Kisii, we're also in Nyeri. We're in Australia, but we're not here. But we're changing that. We're coming back here, and we're going to pull it here. So this center of excellence, it has started. In Columbus, Ohio, is doing all those things, but or in Germany, it's being done. Yeah? Why not? And it's here. So all your questions, the dream is there, and what the CEO said earlier on, it's providence. All the cogs in the wheel are in there, and all these champions are working towards the help of people in Kisumu. Now, as a hub, Kisumu International Airport, it takes you 15 minutes to come from, once you got your bag, to get to Jaramogi, 15 minutes. Hemu tried in Nairobi. 15 minutes you're just at the place where you are paying for the ticket to come out. You have not come out yet. So guys can arrive. If you come by bus, how long will it take you from the bus station to get to Jaramogi? You gotta walk. It'll get you how long? 25. Perfect. Look at the roads. Look at the bypass. Flangover. You call it flyover? Flangover. They are there. So Kisumu is a hub. We are there.
Thank you. So, and also just to clarify too, I know we were talking about the numbers as far as looking at, and I saw the view and decide if they needed surgery. We're in the hundreds at this point. So I think even though we've done quite a significant amount of surgery, but those are the people who evaluate them and decipher which ones need surgery. With that said, let's grab some dinner right outside and start going over some cases. Thank you.
I think some people are starting to trickle out this weekend. Every day. We're actually in the car. I just follow it. I just get it over the checks and everything. Yes, make the reservation.
How are you?
All right, we are going to continue eating, but we're going to go ahead and continue with case presentations. So, obviously, the interesting cases are the disasters, as you know. So we are going to go ahead and present the case and kind of talk about what people would, what different people might do in this situation. But we'll go ahead. Josie Hein is my physician's assistant, and she's going to go through the case. And I will kind of ask the audience as we go along how you would treat this the various complexities that arise or complications that arise from this particular case. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here in Kenya, a beautiful country, and where everyone welcomes you with warm smiles. So let me get started with this case. This is a 32-year-old female who came to Grant Medical Center April 2018. She had 2 months of posterior cervical pain and pertinent medical history. She is an IV drug user. She last used 2 days before she presented, and she came in with a subjective fever, some diffuse paresthesias to her upper and lower extremities. Objective exam, she had some tricep weakness, 4 out of 5, and some decreased sensation to the back of her right hand, of 19.
So, if you go back to the exam, the clinical scenario will guide how aggressive you are. So, subjective fevers, paresthesias, and basically the triceps is weak. And that's about it.
Bacteremia.
So, in the neurologically intact patient, right into an operation.
Do you have any axial? Do you have any actual images of the
I don't have any actual images for this presentation, but I can tell you that on the actual cuts, there's severe stenosis at C56 down to 71. So anyone else as far as,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Do you know what the HIV status was of this patient? To portion any AIDS medications?
No.
Just to go along with what Alex said, so, from afar, the CAT scan, the first thing usually ER gets, the focal kyphosis, some of them growing there. You can see the epidural of the CAT scan as well. So to 5, 6, 6, 7. 6, 7, this looks like the one with the osteodystitis, or dystitis, causing a ventral epidural abscess. I agree with Dr. Galler for that exam. I would be hesitant to operate right away. I would do antibiotics for about 6 to 8 weeks till it became, essentially sterilized. And at that point, I would operate because that's why you have stable fracture. And that disc is not, it may fuse across, but that deformity will be there after it fuses, and that will cause ASD essentially long term. So from a global alignment standpoint, I get some fluid film, I make some baseline measurements, SPA, probably mismatch, and then I would probably go ahead and correct the curve. I do a 2-3 level ACDF, and down the road after the treatment. Now, however, let's pretend that the exam was worse than that. The patient was progressing to paraplegia. That could be from a couple things. One would be expanding abscess, 2 would be venous thrombosis, as we all know, which we can't do anything about, but we can take away the offending factor causing venous thrombosis. If I were to fix this, I would use allograft opposed to anything metallic or PEEK, because PEEK has a tendency to hold on to the germs, as we all know. The allograft would integrate with the bones really purely, and you just kind of pray at that point that it would infection will have to be washed out. But that would be the approach I would take.
I'd like to play devil's advocate. Right now, the consensus is maybe treat this medically, but with severe stenosis, already a deformity, with epidural abscess and the beginnings of a neurologic change in paresthesia, my recommendation would be surgery up front. People decline neurologically rapidly with osteomyelitis, discitis, and epidural abscess because they have a venous thromboembolism more often than an increased stenosis. And so you can only treat venous thromboembolism by preventing it. Once it occurs, an infarct in the cord is irreversible, even if you decompress the spine. And so in these cases, I tend to be more aggressive, and the literature does support instrumentation at the time of decompression. And so there's a concern always about instrumenting the spine in the face of infection, but it has been shown to be quite safe. And the benefit of removing the epidural abscess outweighs the risk of chronic infection with instrumentation. I would agree that something other than PEEK is useful, so even autograft in these cases is more useful, but metallic instrumentation is widely acceptable in these cases.
Dr. Rowery, or let's get a different perspective. Dr. Hutu, how in Germany, give us a different perspective. How would you approach this typically at your hospital in Germany?
Well, I mean, just like Dr. Hara said, with this, the feeling is always like when you have this severe stenosis and you already have some, even if it's a slight neurologic deficit, if it gets worse, you're basically running after it. Yeah. So I would also tend to be much more aggressive here, because I mean, if somebody had a degenerative stenosis, and we saw some signals, some neuropathic signals in the spinal cord, we're typically, in Germany we're more aggressive on that. So I'll probably be aggressive. I'll take off that'll be 7 and do a ham stage and with a plate in front. That's the way I think that's the tendency we have.
Okay, great. And I want to get the perspective from in Nairobi, something like this shows up. First of all, we have a lot of problems with IV drug users. I know in our hospital, we're dealing with this kind of stuff every week. Every week we have someone who's an IV drug user who's myelopathic or who has radiculopathy or back pain from an epidural abscess of some sort, osteodyskitis. Is this a problem in Kenya, and how do you approach this here?
Thank you, David. I think in my hands, we tend not to have a lot of IV drug abusers. HIV is more prevalent, so that would be the cause for it, not necessarily an IV drug. 1. 2, I get twitched with somebody's got an epidural abscess from that narrow space and with a potential to deteriorate. I have been caught like that before, and it's like also a little white shy, so I tend to be more aggressive. And I always get amazed when you get into that epidural space how that pus shoots out. It's under so much pressure. Give them an extra incision on the head to get a piece of bone. What I've found quite useful is back dressing. So you actually have not only that, once you decompress it, you have a vacuum dressing as well. So you're going to get the antibiotics that as well. So from my point of view, I would be more aggressive because
as far as aggressive, sorry to interrupt, will you do discectomy and instrumentation, or will you do, what exactly would you do?
I just put a graft.
Just a graft, okay. A graft, autograft, allograft? Autograft without any type of instrumentation.
Can you fix like with the goods with the another see a moment. Yeah. The name will come this time.
Thank you.
So the question for Dr. Lunia is, which level will you do?
I know we're limited without the axial, but I can take my word for it. You have stenosis
from here to here. The stenosis is actually getting higher up. The disc itself at 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6 is not a disc. 6, 7 as well. So the 6, 7 from that's a T-weighted image would be more liquid. So once you get the disc out, and the pressure itself would get it delivered. So I guess single level discectomy, no fusion with autograft, no instrumentation. Now, are there any other? Let me get a show of hands for all the neurosurgeons or orthopedic spine surgeons in the room. Could I get a show of hands? Okay, Uganda. How would we approach this in your facility typically, or how would you approach this at your hospital? Just whenever I ask a question, please stand up, say your name, and then answer the question. Thank you.
Once again, Hussein Zainathu from Kampala. There are key catching segments with this patient, especially the neurological findings of this patient. So we see that there's a fallout, especially in the motor aspect, and of course there's a bit of sensory aspect. When we look at that, as some of the discussants have put it forward, we don't have a lot of space within that canal. So when you have that infection, urine, what you have to do is to decompress that patient as quickly as possible, because chances of fast deterioration are very fast. This is an infection. It is not a tumor that you can give it time and then try to do more. Okay, this is an infection. The earlier you take the patient to theater and decompress, I think I will also fall into an opinion of Olumia. I'd rather take the iliac crest, probably no instrumentation. But these are schools of thought. Anyone can give an opinion.
What level? Would you do the one level or both levels? Because Dr. Olumia mentioned he's going for where the pus is.
I think I'll also do probably one level.
One level for this patient. Great. Okay. Next slide.
So we took her for a C5 to 7 ACDF, a partial hemicorpectomy to take out the abscess, and intraop culture showed MRSA. Her post-op exam was stable. These are our post-op uprights.
So post-op x-rays look good, and then go ahead.
So she came back 2 months later with some neck swelling and quadriparesis. Upper extremities were 3s and 2s, and then her lower extremities were hip flexion 2, knee extension 3, plantar flexion 2, dorsiflexion 0 with some hyperreflexivity. What would you do here?
So she's patient is myelopathic, really weak at this point. Go ahead, next slide.
So there's an MRI with an abscess anteriorly.
Your MRI shows you this. So anybody, any of the, anyone else? Let me see the hands of the neurosurgeons again. I have to put it in my long-term memory. Back here, were there any more? Okay. I'll put you on the spot again. Over here. What's your thought process? How would you approach this? What are you thinking? And tell us your name and where you're from.
Yeah, my name is Nahali from University of Nairobi. Why does this is how many months?
2.
2 months.
2 months or so. So you said there's a reconnection around that area of the MRI. Yeah.
Yes.
That's causing stigma.
So what are you going to do as far as the procedure of choice? What do you do?
I'll call my boss.
So you make the phone call to your boss. Your boss, I'll assume I'm your boss right now, because if my resident calls me
I said, I don't know what you want to do. I say, what do you want to do? You're going to be in this spot very soon. What do you want to do? What's your plan? Actually, don't allow them to call me until they come up with a plan. So, what's your plan? And you don't. And it doesn't have to be right. And we're just discussing. So, just give me. You're on the right path. You're telling me this patient needs to go back. Patient's weak. You have compression. You have hardware in there. What do you do?
So the implants need to come out. Somehow we need to stabilize the C-spine posterior and anterior. That part needs to come out.
Okay, so what's your procedure? What are you booking for your surgery? What are you telling them that you're going to do?
We're going to do some level connecting from C5 to 7 and put a long cable and probably stabilize posterior as well.
Okay, so he's going to do a corpectomy and stabilize posteriorly. He's going to take all the hardware out, do a corpectomy, evacuate the abscess, and then stabilize anterior and posterior, instrument, everything. Now, what's your corpectomy cage of choice?
You need a long one.
Are you using metal? Are you using autograft? What do you think? What do you want? Okay. All right. Great. So that's one approach. Now, would anyone approach this any different? Anybody? Dr. Patel.
I don't even need a microphone sometimes.
Give him the mic.
So, can we just go back one slide to meet a close-up film real quick?
Tell us your name and where you're from.
Sorry. Dr. Patel from Boston, Massachusetts. So, back to my original point. So now if I hear this on call, next slide over, with the patient has new ventral abscess spanning multiple levels. And there's also that abscess pushing the trachea and esophagus anterior, so this patient has some breathing or swallowing problems. So obviously you have to go from the front to take out that abscess up front. And the nice of the infection is probably the foreign bodies that are now infected in the antibiotics I'm getting to. So I would remove all the metallic hardware. I would do a multiple level corpectomy, including a fibular strut, or a strut in with a plate across that. Now, a few companies do make plates for the struts. I think if you have one, and I think Globus has the next one too, where it actually integrates right to the strut, top and bottom. So you can put multiple screws in there. The screw at the top, screw at the bottom, put it in, and put it that way. That way, the oxygen integration would be greater than this. Clear, it's only 2 months, so obviously I haven't seen fusion, especially in a setting of infection. But that would be the greatest chance to fuse, I believe, at that point. And then again, just compliance, right?
So you're doing everything up front, not any support from the back, or are you supplementing?
Yeah, so I would do a 360 rotation. Correct. So I think the most important thing up front is to decompress that abscess in the neck. The swelling in the neck. It's only a matter of time for their airway issues. I think this is an emergency. As close to the night it comes in, so you can wait until morning. You remove all the hardware and then do a strut. And then I would flip the patient and do posterior spinal mass stabilization. And then I would try to get this person to a rehab for at least a few weeks, so that guarantees me that the patient is in antibiotics and they're compliant. I am forcing compliance on the patient at that point. I won't be surprised how much patients work with if they, the VNA shows up, knocks on the door, then I'm home. Things like that.
Okay, so we have 2 options right now. We said similar plan. The end result seems very similar, except that you are using titanium and he's using a fibula strut graft. Any other thoughts from anyone else as to how to approach this that's different from the 2? Oh, you have a question, Dr. Dow?
It's a medical question, but I'm just a medical oncologist, I'm the surgeons, neurosurgeons. The cause of the infection was some unusual, but what the infectious disease consultant have to say?
MRSA, MRSA. It was MRSA, bacteremia.
Anyone else with a different plan?
I would say different. I would say a supplement.
Supplement plan.
So what I've been doing now for these big infections is getting autographed or trying to minimize foreign material. And then I took a cue from the orthopedic guys, and I've been using antibiotic impregnated beads. And I packed the graft with that. And you can fill it with vancomycin. And so basically you have a vancomycin infused graft. So I've been doing that for osteodiscitis and osteomyelitis. So type of graft you use, you're using expandable gauge, whatever, it's kind of hard to pack those. I go old school and use like a harms gauge. You cut it, put a little traction, you really pack that thing with a ton of autograft, and then you mix it with antibiotic beads. And I've been fiddling with that, and it seems to have been reasonably helpful recently.
Thank you.
No data though.
Thank you.
Just to add on from what Robert said, the other graft, as opposed to a slug graft, fibula, you have to use grip. It's got a nice curve, and in terms of packaging, using traction, bead testing. And what I said about the vacuum dressing, it has saved my bacon on more than one occasion. And it's actually quite spectacular because it just keeps sucking it away. And we've got portable vacs now. There's a chap who actually provides this in the trade, and he actually does it around the country for me. So I've had patients in Kisumu who had wounds, and they've been vacuum dressing, but most recently I had an epidural abscess. This was thoracic, and we had to go in twice. No instrumentation, just from discitis. And the vacuum dressing actually helps. So not only a strap, but also use a vacuum dressing.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
So she went that day for a C5 to T1 cage placement with a vertebrectomy from C6 to 7 and evacuation of the abscess. Then the next day we took her for a posterior backup from C4 to T2 and laminectomies at C5 to T1 and intraop cultures grew MRSA. Post-op day 2 she had some improved strength, and then by post-op day 4 she was full strength. These are also her post-op x-rays.
I will not clap yet. The disaster is a real.
He's presenting this.
So far. Both sides. Yeah. Flexing. Well, so at this point, strength's improved. Looks like the dust is settled. Sunny skies. But the weather changes. Next slide.
3 months later, she came in after a fall 3 days ago, and she had this lump in her neck.
Lump. So
this passes the squint test, right?
The squint from the back. All right, you can see from the back. So how do you say this? This is when the weatherman says, go to the basement. We have basements in the USA. Tornado warning. Hold on to something. Everybody clear the streets. The storm is coming. It is here. This is Katrina in neurosurgical terms. So, anyways, what is her exam? Oh, what is the patient's
She was intact.
Patient is intact.
Laminectomy saved.
Okay. So, Dr. Lobel. You are a storm chaser. How would you fix it?
Can you back up to the?
I can show her the CT.
films before?
Yeah, and I can give you.
Now,
let me give you a little more too. I can give you a little more than the X-ray.
I also know Grant is such a wonderful place and safe and secure for these patients. But when you've got soft bone from an osteomyelitis, the question is, how far should you actually go north? Is this something that you go up to C1, C2, because you're going to get a stronger fixation? You already have somebody who's going to reinfect anyways. The IV drug user, if they don't already go back to IV drugs, is still going to infect themselves. So looking at this and then going to where the failure is, even though she's fully intact, and I'm sure you got an MRI scan, which shows some kinking of the spinal cord, I'd probably put her in, consider some Gardner-Wells tongs, get her straight, get her reduced, and then I'd more than likely going to have to consider redoing her anterior posteriorly, whether or not you go up to the occiput, or knowing that she's 31 years old, go from C1 all the way down to T3. And then you have to look at your screw lengths also. So unfortunately, storm chasing I enjoy too, but let's see what you did.
So what do you say you'll do?
I either get all the way up to the occiput after reducing in some tongs.
No, okay, go back. So here, do you have another slide?
There's a CT.
There's a CT scan. Okay, so that's what the CT scan looks like.
She's pulled out already, but you need to reduce her. You can also get a CT angiogram on that too worry, but you need to reduce her to stop this chin and chest deformity.
So, are you taking the hardware out? Are you just putting the patient in traction?
I'm going to transiently put her in traction, get her reduced.
Okay.
She's of course admitted for this.
Okay.
And then you're going to end up doing front back, and you're going to take out your anterior work, you're going to have to do your posterior work.
Now,
you should be able to preserve your lower screws, so you don't have to worry with that again.
Now you're taking your anterior work. What are you doing with it?
I am hoping that you'll show me.
I'm not showing up. I'm running.
Oh yeah, you're back.
I'm in Kenya.
I'm in
Kisumu.
Yeah, of course. You know, you don't have a lot, unfortunately, to work with, because of the superior aspect of where you've got your corpectomy cage. But I think the problem is actually distal. So I think she's kinking over C3, 4, 5. I think you've got some bone at 5, and her kinking is actually at C4 and 5. So you're going to have to reduce her and pull her back up there. You're probably going to have to extend your corpectomy anteriorly. Use the bone that you've got with the assumption that there's no active infection, and then flip her back over and extend your posterior instrumentation and have longer screw fixation.
Are you still going with titanium up front? Are you? What's your cage of
my
preference
cage, my
in this
cage of
situation?
preference? You can probably just do a strut, fibular scratch or something. The rib idea I like. I haven't thought about using rib, but you know, I don't think you're going to get enough support from the rib, but if you morselize it, I think it's going to be a better anterior fixation. So fibular strut, maybe surround with some rib and some hip graft, and then you're going to do a long posterior fixation. You can even consider.
Are you going to the occiput, right?
I would think about going to the occiput, but she's only 32 years old. But you may have no other option. But I like C1, C2 fixation.
Okay.
With nice long screws.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Look at C2 though, the foramen is right there. So getting the screw into C2 might be rough. If you look, we don't have the axial, but you can see the foramen, vertebral foramen right to C2. So that might be one less point of fixation. So you have to take all that into consideration when you're determining how high you go.
I think you can still get a screw into C2. I mean, it's just that on this axle cut,
Yeah.
so you have a back cut, you can get a screw.
So a point for the residents though is you must always get a thin cut CAT scan through that area before you do bar screws or screws in that area, because the vertebral artery can sneak into the path of that screw, and you don't want to identify it by its contents.
Absolutely.
Well, what I was going to ask was, with all this soft bone and infection, we are putting more instrumentation. Pull out, it's pulling out. Would you think about putting something extended, like a halo rest?
Okay, so so at this point you're
No, after the reduction, as you said.
okay.
Yeah.
So after the reduction and fixation, or you're just reducing and putting in the halo?
No, you take out whatever hard is there for the problem. You put more, your structure graft, but as opposed to using the fixation on the screw itself, you put in a halo.
A halo, so full stop in the halo after only anterior fixation.
No, because the posterior one you have to take out as well.
But are you putting back any posterior fixation, or are you leaving the posterior out?
You won't be able to get proper access of that. So, with the same way you put the graft in front, you already rely on the halo. So once you take the screws out, and you only graft, that will work, because I'm being ultra conservative here from that point of view, because the way they are pulled out there, I've got a feeling that even if you go out to the oxygen, whether that will keep pulling up, I'm not sure. So I would start graft, instruments out, halo. I mean, the old days people would be used to be in bed for six months. I think if you do that, well, you get fever and die. So get an ambulatory with a halo after you take out the instrument. So as opposed to putting hardware, strut graft, only graft at the back, stuff out, and halo.
Anyone else?
So my name again is Timothy Ogutu. I'm just trying to understand, I mean, the ventral cage. I mean, for us guys, naturally, such a cage will come with a plate, a ventral plate. So what was the reason behind, or is there a reason why there was no ventral cage placed?
I have no idea. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I can't answer that question. But so now this is what you have.
Okay.
How are you going to deal with it?
Yeah.
Your resident calls you and says, "It doesn't look good."
It's difficult. I mean, I would try and get some electrodiagnostics and try and reduce it and carefully reduce it, remove the hardware, all of it, from probably not the screws, just maybe the last thoracic screws I'll leave them in, the ones in T1 and T2.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave them in.
And then you're taking everything else out.
I'll take everything else out because everything else is outside space. Yeah, the rest of the screws. Then we'll try and reduce it. I think with this age going through the occiput, I have my problems with that. So I'll probably take it up to C1, C2, and try and put a longer, maybe a round gauge, fill it up with bone, and then try and plate it from ventral, and then have the patient like a neck brace for some time and just regularly control.
Did you say you were replacing the cage up front?
Or the whole cage, I'll remove it.
You're removing
it? Because the bone, the C5,
yes.
3, 4, 5, yeah. I mean, I think that bone is disturbed because it has to come off the bone. I'll remove that. And I'll put a longer cage up to just up to C5. Yeah. Remove the C5 below C4.
Titanium?
And a longer plate. Yeah.
Anyone else? That's something different. Anybody else do something different? Okay, next slide.
There's an MRI too.
So that's the MRI. Sorry, didn't show you that, but go on, next slide.
So she went for an occiput T3 posterior fusion and halo placement post-op.
So realigned halos put in place. Now, go ahead. Hold on. Go back to the slide. Anybody? Any thoughts?
So again, there's no plate over the cage, and the cage is into a partially corpectomized C5. All right? So that's going to fail. What I probably would have done was just take the rest of 5, get it to 4 with a fresh end plate. If you're lucky and that thing will expand and get there, probably could have gotten it. That ain't gonna work.
Next slide.
So 5 days later, she had some posterior incisional drainage.
She's still in the hospital.
She's still in the hospital.
She hasn't gone anywhere.
She went for a wound drainage and wound back placement.
And then this another scan post that initial. This is just go ahead. This is just a little bit. The patient's still in the hospital. Any thoughts? Any thoughts? So that's what else.
With a fibular graft from C4 to T1 and upper X-rays.
So, what's their exam at this point?
She was intact.
So the patient's intact. Fibular graft is in there. You got your plate. You got your posterior fixation.
You got the halo.
You got your halo.
And she wants to have, she felt like because it's hot and stuffy. And
everything looks great.
All right. 6 months later, she had some drainage for a month and some neck pain for 4 days. So we got a CT scan.
So when this happens,
she was dehiscing, and her CT obviously showed hardware failure.
I'm going to.
She was admitted.
This is actually a vertebral body over here. That's not what it is. You can appreciate it with all without scrolling through. This screw was in here and just kind of pulled this all out, and this screw is sitting now. And this is another the body below, but this screw belongs over here. Okay. So now chin on chest.
So
she's still doing drugs?
Yes.
Yes.
And hip line?
Does she have a hip line?
And does she have a vegetation?
Yes.
That makes it really
Yes.
easy. She has a vegetation. Why is she seeking just because of the drugs?
Well, at this point, the MRI, do you have an MRI?
Yes. No, we don't.
Oh,
because
so,
that night she got weak.
I mean, this just fell apart, and she was she was lost to follow-up, I believe. And then halo.
She didn't come back for a follow-up.
She already took her halo off and home. So then you have this. You're on call, and your favorite resident calls you and tells you, not things don't look good. What do you do? That night, the patient gets, you can't get an MRI because she can't tolerate it. And she gets weak significantly. What is the example now? You have the.
So that night she was a right hip flexion 1, knee extension 2, and then distally dorsiflexion was 4-, plantar flexion 5, and EHL 4-.
So you have a patient that's getting weak significantly compared to when she came in. So, anybody? What do you do at this point?
So you take it back, you take your posterior rod out, you leave your instrumentation superiorly, you remove those two screws that, the T1, T2. You take the T1, T2 screws out, you wash it out, extend the T1 to T6. You put a new eye.
And one of the things I wish we had is you don't appreciate it as much, but you don't see that well in this view. But there's the rest of this vertebral body is pushed back into the canal.
Does she have scoliosis films? Ever?
Has she had scoliosis
Yeah,
films?
just curious with her.
Did she have any scoliosis films up to
At
this
that point?
Oh, before.
I don't think she had any at that point.
And also DEXA scan too, what thinking aloud here. She's failing because Susie's pulling out, right? The bone part is horrible. Maybe she has some sort of strange early onset osteoporosis on top of her confused. Something we're missing here. Why is she pulling out?
I mean, I think it's because she's exactly a long construct.
And she has like no curves. The first time, she reversed lordosis in the first initial scan, which kind of scared me. Now, I don't see any curves, and that's a short segment X-ray, so I can't tell.
So, well, now the problem is she's weak. So yeah, what are you going to do?
I would go down T6.
Go down to T6?
Yeah. Well, I mean, always the question is how far down you go, right? At this point. Just like when you're going, start with T10 pelvis, you go to, T4, oxford, your stem to start with, say it real quick. I would go T6 and then, wait for it to come back in, maybe 8 weeks there, and something else.
Anyone else?
I would agree, except that I may go longer, because we've already had somebody fail several times, and if you end your construct at the apex, you may find yourself in the same position. And so I would go to even T10, T11, past the thoracic head.
So everyone says big construct. Go ahead, next slide.
Okay.
I guess that's a question.
I've got a one obtuse question. Who is funding all this?
Taxpayer.
Dr. Garrison,
Right. Okay. Well, if this was in our environment, it would have been sorted out some kind of, because the funding basket will not be enough for the surgeries to be done, and some other issue might have cropped up, and this is the length of time when she first presented. How many months is this now?
This has been 11 months.
Yeah.
So in a year has had multiple surgeries.
In hospital stay.
In hospital multiple times.
Antibiotics, implants.
Leaves, gets lost, or shows up in the disaster.
That's my question. Okay, fine.
Next slide.
So she went for an occiput T3 hardware failure removal. Sorry.
Oh, go back to the previous slide. All these screws up here and the occipital, but you can't actually appreciate here, but all these screws here have all pulled out. What's a bone density? Do you have bone density at this point?
No.
No.
So occiput to T3 removal. We did laminectomies at T2 to 4 with rhizotomies at T3 and 4, and then T3, 4 corpectomies and a posterior fusion from C1 to T8. Post-operatively, she was still weak. Uppers were intact, but her lowers had a 1 out of 5 left hip flexion and knee extension, and she had progressed to zeros throughout the hours when we were getting the MRI before surgery. Within the next few days, she improved to an Asia C, and on the 10th, Asia C.
So at some point here, this cage is slipping out a little bit. So she goes back to surgery, gets the rods out in the cage reposition. Okay? So now, that's what you have.
Being placed in a halo again.
And she's in a halo again. So,
and this time we did get some scolies.
She has scoli images.
So still some kyphosis.
Alignment's not bad. Alignment's not bad at all.
For now.
For now.
Okay. So then a week later, she had another posterior wound drainage and dehiscence. Went for another IND and wound vac placement.
Plastics gets involved to do some kind of wound closure.
Yep.
Go ahead, next slide.
Then a month later, she came to clinic for follow-up with some films.
Anybody, any thoughts? What's going on?
Where's the halo?
Took it out.
I think on this one, plastics. And you have this. With that? Actually, no. This is just a bad image. The thoracic cage is fine. You can see that the thoracic cage is actually fine.
And what's the neurology?
What's that? Oh, she was
intact.
Yeah, she was intact.
Next slide. So, on this slide, the lateral pedicle fracture at the bottom of the construct. Okay? This is the top of this pedicle. This over here. Okay? This is the bottom of this pedicle. And the bottom screw in this ring washer just split the pedicle and the lateral pedicle is fractured. Any thoughts? Pedicle? Dr. Roy?
Add more screws.
Add more screws. Okay, where do you go to? T11. T11. Okay. Anyone else?
In terms of the, to answer that question, because I mean, each of the schools that we put in, they fall out. So, is there any other method? I don't know.
Let's say that the bone density isn't that great. What will you do different? Let's say augment the screws. There we go. What else? Now, this screw didn't pull out. I think it just cracked.
That's part of the same issue, the same bone. So.
Yeah. Because as you can see, this just kind of split the, I think it's just too much force. And it just kind of fractured that pedicle. Dr. Copeland? Any thoughts?
With all due respect, I lost interest in this case a long time ago. No, I agree. You got to extend your construct. I mean, yeah, and you know, certainly nowhere around here is the resource available, but you can consider. Somebody help me! I've been out of the U.S. too long. Not methylmethacrylate. Well, no, but I'm not even that. BMP. Yeah, but you know, in our setting around here, we don't have any of that, and so I think you just got to extend your construct. Maybe the L2.
I think the problem is not the bone density. The problem is what do you call it? Adjusting level failure. And then we can see. Yeah.
So pretty much everyone's saying extend the construct. Dr. LaBelle, anything you do different?
You know, if you've already got some fusions, she's asymptomatic. if you already have fusion masses, she's asymptomatic, she still comes back with infections, you're gonna just go all the way to the sacrum, just put pelvic screws in. But my thought is, it's gonna go there. But why not pull out all your posterior instrumentation and just give her a holiday for a while? Let everything settle down, let her wounds heal. If you need to put her in a halo because you've got some, positive sagittal balance, then just put her in a halo. But at this point, my feeling is you've got a situation which is out of control. You're going to keep instrumenting her. The wound's going to break down. She's going to die. So pull everything out posteriorly, let everything heal up, see what she does. Okay. And if she stays clinically intact and she's got a positive sagittal balance and she doesn't collapse any further, then so be it. Are we treating beautiful x-rays or a clinical exam?
She went for T6 to T11, posterior fusion, just extended the breaths.
So hardware was extended, and next slide.
Some skull films.
Some skull x-rays, the alignment looks pretty good. What else?
We don't know yet.
And she's gone for now.
So next year's conference.
So next year's conference. I think that's it. So in terms of support, let's say lost to follow, do you have a system for surveillance where you can go and check on them? You use some terms, right? Something about it's home visit or something, check that they're home now. You've got that. Yes.
Yes.
For some of this, they just delinquent, they remove their base of a board or what happens? A lot of these people, with home health, usually it's something you have to set up when someone's in the hospital, or typically with these patients who have surgery, it gets set up, you go to rehab, then they leave from the rehab facility a lot of times with home health. But a lot of these patients, especially these IV drug users, even the home health people sometimes can't find them, or some people don't get approved for home health. It's various things depending on insurance. So it also depends on your insurance. So some of these people without insurance, it's kind of hard to get them approved for various things. But you can get approval for this kind of instrumentation. Which the thing is, a lot of times when these patients do come to the hospital in the United States, then it's almost as though in the U.S. you can walk into any hospital if you have something that meets surgical criteria. No one asks how much will it cost. I don't even know how much most of the procedures I do cost. I don't know if you guys do. But there are many surgeries that I do that, it's the transparency is not there. At least I find that it's a lot of times difficult to know the cost.
Just a little background on this. We have these patients commonly, now not to this extent, but osteomyelitis discitis from IV drug abuse. We had 70,000 deaths from overdose in the United States last year. That's more than our entire Vietnam War casualties over 10 years. That was 55,000 soldiers lost over 10 years. We lost 70,000 to overdose last year alone. So that's one problem you deal with soon. The cost is, for this patient is about $1 to $1.5 million. That's 100 million shillings for this one patient. How's the cost shared? Every person now in the United States, since 5 or 6 years ago, when we implemented something called the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, you may have heard of, now has at least some government insurance. Even without government insurance prior to that, 30% of our patients were charity, which means the hospital covered all their costs. Not necessarily the taxpayer. Some of it was subsidized from the government, but the hospital covered the cost. So the hospital systems, even our nonprofit hospital system that we work for, is profitable enough to cover also the indigent care. Now everybody's insured. They have at least basic government insurance. The government insurance from our perspective is better from our perspective as a physician because I can order anything at any time. Whereas if they have commercial insurance, the insurance company may argue with us as to, right, you need pre-authorization.
So the cost of healthcare is shared among many entities, but generally prior to Obamacare, the hospital covered most of the cost with some subsidies from the government. Since Obamacare, the majority of the cost is on the government healthcare system that's applied to all these patients that qualify for it. So that nobody pre-Obamacare or post, like Dr. O'Ward said, was ever turned away from a hospital. There are stories that, well, if you're too sick and you have insurance, you can't come. That's not true. Actually, they were much easier to care for because we could order any test and do any surgery we needed to. We didn't need any kind of authorization from a commercial insurance. So the cost is never an issue individually when we interact with the patient, but the cost over time to society is getting large, and so there is a big movement towards some kind of healthcare reform.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your participation.
That adapter, HDMI adapter.
No, this is a Surface.
Do you have a USB-C?
USB-C one.
No. What's USB-C?
Because he doesn't have.
But I mean, what is that?
You can hook onto this and then to.
Is that USB-C or what is this?
No, we don't have this. Oh yeah, this is
USB-C.
No.
No.
So that's a lightning port. What is that one over? You need a USB.
No, but I mean this. I've got a.
Oh wait, what's this?
No, but that's the same USB-C.
No, this is the same. He doesn't have that.
Yeah,
that's
micro USB.
Micro USB. I don't have.
What's gonna go here?
This?
Would it?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Email.
Do you have a jump drive?
No, I don't have a jump drive. Can I email it? Oh yes, can I put it on the jump drive?
You need to. Can you plug and play? You need to.
We'll just.
Lose all data.
Yep. Okay.
Our next case is being presented by Dr. Rory. Thank you.
All right, thank you. My name is Bethel Rory, and I felt like, I mean, I have a number of cases, but it looks like we're hammering on the cervical spine. So I thought, let me bring this up. So, 56-year-old female, 10 years ago, before this, she had a car accident, had a C7 corpectomy, and then 3 years later, she had throat cancer, had surgery, had radiation, and chemotherapy. And a few years before this, she was a smoker and she quit. And she comes in because if you look at her, she can barely take a deep breath. She's been sent by her pulmonologist because her pulmonary numbers are pretty bad. She is constantly having infection, and essentially she's going to suffocate to death because her neck is touching on her chin, and she can barely take a deep breath. And she's also lost 15 pounds over the last 30 days because she's feeling like something is pushing on her throat, she can't swallow. This is the preoperative films. Anyone wants to take a stab at what to do with it? Okay.
I would admit her for her infection.
Okay.
For a few days. Try to reduce the best I can.
All right.
And I would recheck the X-ray at that point and make a surgical plan.
Okay. So I didn't have all the films, but if you look at her CT scan, she has jumped facets and 6, 7, which are fused. So she cannot reduce with the help. If you lay her flat, she has a fixed deformity. Her head doesn't fall back. Yeah. She's intact. She's walking. She comes to clinic like this.
Would love to see her CT scan.
You have a CAT scan?
No, I don't have a CAT scan.
Okay, so she came in, stuff essentially that.
Right.
The jump assessment fused.
Right. Now, the plate has kicked out. If you did on the CAT scan, the plate has kicked out. It's pressing on the esophagus. And she's lost 15 pounds in the last 30 days, I think. She can't swallow.
You get a swallow study or an esophagram?
I don't recall that. We got her pulmonary numbers are pretty bad though. So we decided to stage before and admit her. After 18 hours, this is what we have. So we did a 540-degree case. Because the facets are fused, we know we couldn't straighten the neck with the fused facets. So we started with her prone in kind of a Concord type of position, and we did laminectomy at, I think, pretty expensive, from C4 all the way to T1. Then we drilled all the facets. After we drilled all the facets, we placed our screws. And then we closed, then we put it back. We went supine, we removed the other plate, we did a fresh corpectomy, placed a titanium cage with allograft inside of the plate. And then we closed that, then we flipped her back, and we put her on. Now she was pretty straight. So that's the first of day 1 CTC. She looks very good, and she comes back a few weeks later. The incision looks great, and she's feeling very good. She's happy that she's able to see up, she's able to take a deep breath, her swallowing has improved. She just feels like she has a little hump on her back. So if you take this, okay, please, somebody say something. Yes. Pardon? Yeah. So, what do you think we'll find before we aspirate? Seroma? Okay. On a contrast study, it's ring enhancing.
Can you go back one slide, please?
Okay.
So just a couple comments. So you did 18 hours of surgery, you said?
Yep.
Any, is there any ideas or preference to stage this? Is there a marathon session?
I'm just having a great day.
You said I love neurosurgery 12 times in kids.
Well, it was a pretty smooth case. You know, everything was planned and just laid out the way it did.
It's not the surgeon stamina I worry about. You know, whenever I do a T4 pelvis or requiring a big corpectomy and correction,
right,
I start staging them, not for surgeon fatigue, but more for reasons like infection and things like that. There's data out there that long OR time, greater blood loss, you have immunosuppression to some degree, because you're essentially bleeding on your white blood cells that are working. You're transfusing blood. Transfuse blood particles. It has a very, very, very good volume standard.
Right.
The immune cells have no real function, and they're usually washed out because of the fever.
Right.
So it was over 18 hours. What was your EBL?
600.
Total? Yeah. No, it's not bad. You know.
Now, if I was doing a T9 to pelvis, I'd probably stage it.
Yeah.
But
and the other worry was, is there, do you have a better kind of the screws and the plate on the left?
Yeah.
Even the disc space there of 6, 7. It looks like there's a kyphosis there already on post OB1. I'm a little worried about that.
Well, 6, 7, there was a plate before. There was a plate before, and like I said, posteriorly the facets are fused. So now we've drilled the facets. We've been able to extend her.
So the fusion's gone now, so you do the facets back.
Right. So we drilled facets, I think, from C5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that 6, 7 now is no longer fused as it used to be.
Right.
It's broken up in front. So I was curious. So there is a plate up front, correct?
Right.
And those screws are similar in the vertebral body somewhere.
Yeah, the vertebral.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just that angulation concerns me. You know, especially now the fusion's broken from the back. So I mean, I would wash out the patient obviously.
Right.
Wound back, give them a chance. You know, we probably send PJK the next slide, basically. And as you said earlier, Dr. Rohr, more screws.
So she comes back. Now this one right here, this is a vertebral body. You have 2 screws which are in 2 different vertebral bodies. Now we're meeting together.
What's the exam?
She's attacked. She's just not out of pain. But she should has come to clinic walking, wounds healed. She's happy. She's just out of pain.
Would anyone, so you did a wash up, correct?
Yeah, so I need a washout.
And this is after, how many days after washouts?
This is 3 months. Hold on. That was in November.
An MRI showing active osteomyelitis.
MRI showing active osteomyelitis and.
On these X-rays, correct?
Yes. No, this is CAT scans. MRI showing active osteomyelitis.
Right, from this, the data of this image.
Yes.
So would anyone take out the hardware like Dr. LaBelle recommended for a CTLSO, let her heal from an infectious disease standpoint, once she's completely healed, then take her back and correct her, do a large deformity correction, again. Also, again, do after that again.
Right.
And that's something I would consider. She's active osteo, putting more screws, it's gonna get me in trouble again. Take everything out, rigid brace, and then let her cool down for at least 12 weeks, that infectious disease do their thing, and then rescan her, and then make a new plan.
So now, what rigid brace do the folks use for the thoracic spine?
I think you use Minerva or something like that, CTLS. I have a custom brace guy, and I'll make a custom brace for us with the curve I want sometimes, especially like younger deformities that I want to progress, to avoid large deformity corrections. They work pretty well, and also send to physiotherapy. Physiotherapy is what I like to say. That work on strengthening their back muscles to improve their vectors, force vectors, till we hold them. It's a difficult case. There's multiple ways of approaching it. That would be my approach, I think.
Do you think the problems of the lumbar side?
Yeah, so all my patients, in their intake, it's scoliosis. Not just because they're deforming, but because I've gotten used to looking at them so much now. And I know the literature is pushing more towards just concentrating on the sagittal balance, as opposed to correcting coronal imbalance and things like that, which I do agree with. I also agree that when you overcorrect sagittal balance now, I think, I know there's a paper came out, it was high, I forget where they said that after 50, you can tolerate 5 to 10 centimeters SVA per decade. And then we overcorrect and pull out the screws because their spine wants to be there. So you say you should only correct about, taking that account, don't overcorrect to get a perfect x-ray because they'll pull out. So, on call, I've taken some patients that had deformity correction, perfect and close-up scan, and he came out with all the screws pulled out the top because their spine wants to be there. So now, this year, I started doing less perfect x-ray correction, just a little, enough, not too much to prevent that screws flying myalgia as well. Who knows, next year I'll probably some PJ cases then, give them time. Anyone else have an approach? Dr. LaBelle? Let's give you the microphone.
Sorry. Dr. Rehari, with Dr. Patel, I look at the entire spine as one functional unit.
Right.
And we too often look independently at the cervical-thoracic junction away from the, true sagittal balance that an individual has and where they want to stay naturally. So the problem is she originally had that corpectomy and then she had an absolute failure, which gradually occurred, causing her dysphagia and her hypoxia. So with that in mind, yes, doing the correction looked really, really good. But the first thing I would consider is the staging. I would just have done an anterior fixation and then let her heal, let everything settle down before going posteriorly. Also, I would consider, where's the problem? Where does she want to be naturally? Because of the fear that you can get an infection from a long surgery with a long instrumented posterior fixation. And, what are you going to do once those screws pull out? You're going to keep extending and extending. I know we haven't seen the end of the story, which I'm looking forward to. The other thing is, even sometimes a holiday for instrumentation is something I've seen a lot of these deformity orthopedic guys starting to do, watching the segmentation rooms and then allowing these patients to settle down. So You know, once you get into the cervical-thoracic junction, I think you're in just as much trouble when you start getting failure as you get into the thoracolumbar junction.
So, all those comments are well taken. Initially, when I looked at this case, I thought of just doing an anterior and putting in a halo. But with the facets being fused, there's no way we're going to avoid a posterior procedure. And then I thought, okay, if I go posterior and drill the facets, you cannot not do a posterior procedure. So we're pretty stacked from the beginning of going posterior. You know, it's one of those patients who've had chemotherapy and radiation, and we hope they come to your partner's clinic, not your clinic. So anyway, in case of time, let's move to the close to the end. So instrumentation. Now, you know, just the comment on the surgical, the balance. Whenever I have anything that's half looking like difficult, I'll get a full skull X-ray. And if you look at her X-ray, her lumbar is pretty good. She's pretty well balanced. She has a little bit of a thoracic. Her thoracic is a little bit straight, but in the setting of the cervical thoracic junction kyphosis, you can't quite judge the lack of thoracic kyphosis on that. Because for all those years that she's been going like this, she has to correct. And so she's been correcting, and her thoracic kyphosis is essentially kind of gone. Because, you know, she's going like this, and so she's pulling. But anyway, we ended up doing this, and thank God our story ended, not like Victor's story. But 1 month post-op, she looked great. 4 months, she looked pretty good. And 1 year from revision. And
notice your X-ray didn't show the bottom.
Well, 1 year from revision, she's doing pretty well.
Her presenting symptom was dysphagia, was that?
Well,
I'm confusing people. Yeah, so many, you know.
Well, dysphagia was one of them. So she has dysphagia. She is myelopathic, and she's hypoxic. And she can't swallow. She's lost 15 pounds in 30 days because she's not on eating.
So that improved.
Yes, she actually gained weight. Now, because she had a history of throat cancer, we did a full cancer workup before we started. We checked the bone density. We took her to a nutritionist. All of that.
So her, so do you think the weight loss, dysphagia, the hypoxia is from
Can we use the mic, please?
the corpectomy kicking out in the beginning? Right.
The hypoxia was from the deformity of the corpectomy kicking out.
And this is a question for Dr. Gala, who, you know, would you appreciate his experience? All her symptoms seem to be going to that leg kicking out.
Right.
Would you just fix that?
But you couldn't have fixed that because you could correct her.
Right.
Have a set of views posterior.
I understand. I would have known what you did. I'm just curious, Dr. Gala. Dr. Gala, I do appreciate it. Thank you.
But you also emphasized that she was becoming hypoxic from.
Yeah. This potentially wasn't hypoxic.
I mean, the first thing I mentioned was maybe getting an esophageal and a swallow study to determine whether or not her throat cancer or anything else. If she had a stricture or something very simple, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's not always, you know, the mechanical issue at hand. She could have had a bad looking construct that happened to be fused in a bad position,
Right.
and had esophageal stricture, and she gets dilated, and that's gone, and you're done. But you know, you clearly presented a patient who was having neurologic problems, the dysphagia, and also respiratory problems. So those are, you know, all of the other things that are indicating that her spine was collapsing over, you know, various systems.
that is the conclusion of the first day of this symposium. Thank you very much, Dr. Rory. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow, we are starting at 7 a.m., promptly at 7 a.m. Let's try and be here early for breakfast and registration and whatnot so we can get the ball rolling. We started off a little bit late today, and we didn't have some speakers here today, so that kind of kept us on schedule. But for tomorrow, please, let's get started on time. Let's be here at 7, get the ball rolling. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much.